Welcome to another episode of People Out Pod. So, imagine spending your entire life, like literally starting at age 11, trying to conquer this one specific, highly competitive industry.
Right.
You play the smoky bars, you face this wall of constant rejection, and then you finally make it to the absolute pinnacle of your field. I mean, winning the awards, getting all the critical acclaim.
A dream, basically.
Exactly. But then, right at the height of your massive success, you look around and decide to just walk away from the very machine that made you a star.
Yeah, it's the ultimate paradox, I think, because we are so conditioned to celebrate that climb to the top, right?
Right.
Like the struggle, the hustle, the big payoff.
Oh, absolutely.
But we rarely examine what it actually takes to reach that peak, look at the view, and realize, like, this isn't where I belong anymore. The courage it takes to dismantle your own success is just staggering.
And that is exactly what this deep dive is all about today. If you've turned on a radio in the last 10 years, you've heard Maren Morris.
Oh, for sure.
She is this powerhouse singer-songwriter who spent years successfully blending country, R&B, and pop. Her story is this fascinating exploration of what happens when an artist outgrows the box they were put in. We're going to look at the sheer risk involved in finding your authentic voice, musically and personally.
Right, because leaving isn't just about walking out a door. It's about what you're leaving behind.
Exactly. And to understand her decision to leave, we really need to understand what she was leaving. Like, what is the traditional Nashville machine?
Well, so the country music industry has historically operated with this very rigid, centralized structure. To, quote-unquote, make it in country music, the unwritten rules dictate that you have to physically move to Nashville.
You have to be in the room.
Yes, exactly. You have to pay your dues. And that usually means spending years writing songs for established artists in these tiny writing rooms on Music Row. And crucially, you have to court terrestrial country radio.
Because they control the airwaves.
Completely. Radio acts as the ultimate gatekeeper in this genre. It's this ecosystem that rewards adherence to tradition, and it places incredibly strict expectations on its stars. And historically, those expectations are even stricter for female stars.
Right.
Dictating how they sound, what they say, even how they behave.
Let me try to visualize this for you listening. It sounds less like an organic art scene and much more like this exclusive high-speed assembly line.
That's a great way to put it.
You have the songwriters supplying the parts, the labels acting as the factory floor, and radio as the distribution trucks. So once you finally manage to jump onto that assembly line and it's carrying you to the top, how terrifying is it to realize you might need to jump back off?
It's terrifying enough that very few people ever do it. I mean, the financial and cultural incentives are all designed to keep you on that conveyor belt.
Because stepping off means losing all of that support.
Voluntarily giving up the infrastructure of your own success, yeah. But if we trace Maren's relationship with music back to its roots, it never actually started on that assembly line. It started much earlier and independently, far away from Nashville.
Yeah, let's look at those Texas roots. She was born in Arlington, Texas in April 1990. Her parents, Scott and Kelly, met at a Dallas bar where they both worked, and later they owned the Maren Carson Aveda hair salon.
Right.
Maren essentially grew up in that environment, working the front desk as a kid.
It was right there in that salon environment where her talent was actually first noticed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when she was just 9 years old, her parents hosted a party for the salon employees at their house. She got up and sang a karaoke version of LeAnn Rimes' song, Blue.
That is not an easy song to sing.
No, not at all. And that was the moment her parents realized she possessed this massive, undeniable voice.
So by age 11, she is already performing at Johnny High's Country Music Review, which is this talent show in Texas, kind of similar in vibe to the Grand Ole Opry.
Right, a big local deal.
Yeah, and from there, she starts touring the state. Her dad essentially became this one-man crew. He was her manager, her booking agent, and her roadie.
Talk about a family operation.
Right. She's a kid playing bars and clubs in Dallas and Fort Worth, treating music as her, quote, weekend job.
And the sheer level of family investment here is a crucial part of the foundation. Like when Maren was 15 years old, in 2005, she recorded an independent debut album called Walk On.
Okay.
To finance the recording and release of that record, her parents literally sold the furniture out of their house.
Wait, they literally sold their furniture just to pay for studio time?
Yes. They believed in her that much.
That is terrifying. I mean, it's an incredible level of belief, but it also puts a tremendous amount of pressure on a teenager.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet, despite all that grassroots Texas touring and family sacrifice, she hits this massive wall of rejection from the mainstream gatekeepers of that era.
Yeah, the reality shows.
Right. She auditioned for American Idol, America's Got Talent, The Voice, and Nashville Star, and was rejected by every single one of them. She even went to the University of North Texas for a semester before just dropping out.
It's wild to think about now.
But I want to pause on those reality show rejections, because the irony is that years later, contestants on those exact shows would be singing her songs to try and win.
It's a poetic vindication for sure.
It is, but let me push back on the idea that these rejections were actual failures. If you think about what reality TV was in the mid-2000s, it wasn't about finding a wholly unique artist. It was about casting a specific role.
Right.
Did getting rejected by that reality TV machine actually protect her artistic identity from being manufactured by someone else?
I think that is the exact right way to look at it.
Yeah.
The reality TV machine of that era was basically the ultimate pop and country idol factory.
Right. They wanted a mold.
Exactly. They were designed to mold singers into highly marketable, easily categorized products. If Maren had been accepted at 16 or 17, she would have been handed a manufactured persona.
Which wouldn't have been her.
Not at all. But being rejected, she was forced into real-world development. She had to build her own voice, figure out her own perspective, and test it in front of live audiences in those smoky Texas bars, rather than, in a sanitized television studio.
So she realizes the reality TV route is a dead end for an independent thinker. But to actually make a living, you still have to go where the money is.
And in country music, all roads eventually lead to Nashville.
Right. So in 2013, she's 22 years old. Another Texas musician, Casey Musgraves, encourages her to make the leap. So Maren packs up a U-Haul, takes the few $1,000s she has saved, and heads to Tennessee.
And this is where she officially steps onto that Nashville assembly line we talked about.
Yeah.
The first step is usually getting a publishing deal, which she does after a year of networking.
Okay.
She signs with Carla Wallace at Big Yellow Dog Music.
Walk me through what that actually means on a day-to-day basis. Like, what does a professional songwriter do in Nashville?
It's essentially a 9-to-5 job, but for creativity. You are paired with other writers in small rooms, and your objective is to just churn out potential hits for established artists.
So you're supplying the custom parts for the factory.
Exactly. And Maren was very good at it. I mean, she wrote for massive stars. Tim McGraw recorded her song Last Turn Home, which is actually where she met her future husband, Ryan Hurd, in a writing session.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Kelly Clarkson recorded her song Second Wind.
So she is perfectly following the blueprint. She's a reliable parts supplier for the machine. But then, in March 2015, something shifts.
A big shift.
She writes a song called My Church. And according to the sources, when she heard the demo, she realized she couldn't give it away. She had to sing it herself.
Yeah.
It's like a Hollywood screenwriter drafting a scene so incredibly personal and powerful that they absolutely refused to let any other actor play the part.
That's a perfect analogy.
But what was it about My Church that made it the catalyst? Like, was it just a great song, or was she finally stepping fully into her own power?
I think it was the deeply specific perspective of the song. My Church is this anthem about finding spiritual salvation, but not in a traditional religious building.
Right, it's about being in the car.
Exactly. It's about finding it while driving, listening to country radio. It's a very specific secular reverence. Furthermore, on top of that, her producer, Busby, helped give it a sonic landscape that felt entirely fresh.
It didn't sound like everything else.
No, it didn't sound like the standard issue parts being produced on Music Row at the time.
Yeah.
But even more important than the song itself was the mechanism she used to release it.
Right, because she didn't take it to a label to ask for permission. She didn't take it to terrestrial radio. In August 2015, she just self-released an EP on Spotify.
Yep.
And the data from the sources is wild. She hits 2.5 million streams in a single month.
Unheard of for an independent country artist, though.
Totally. 3 of the songs hit Spotify's viral 50 charts.
Let's break down why that is so disruptive. Terrestrial radio in country music isn't like an algorithmic playlist, It's heavily controlled by a relatively small number of program directors nationwide.
They're the gatekeepers.
Exactly. They act as quality control for the assembly line. If they decide your song doesn't fit the mold, your song just doesn't get heard. By utilizing streaming, Maren bypassed the middleman entirely.
The listeners got to decide directly.
Yes. Listeners voted with their clicks. That massive, undeniable, independent momentum forced the traditional industry to pay attention, which triggered a major label bidding war.
The factory had to buy her out, basically. So she signs with Columbia Nashville the very next month. They officially release My Church as a single, and it ends up winning her a Grammy.
Best country solo performance.
Right. And from there, the rise is just meteoric. Her 2016 major label debut album, Hero, was a total revelation.
It really was.
It didn't sound like traditional country. She was missing in 90s R&B influences, pop, even hip-hop beats, all underneath clever, distinctly country storytelling. It hit #1 on the country albums chart.
And then she pushed it even further.
Yeah, in 2018, she shatters genre borders completely by providing lead vocals for The Middle, which was a massive pop dance track with Zedd and Gray that went top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100.
And crucially, she maintained her country credibility while doing a pure pop dance track.
Which is so rare.
Super rare. Her 2019 album, Girl, cemented her as a superstar. The single The Bones was a monster hit, eventually getting a crossover duet version with Hozier.
Such a great version.
Oh, incredible. She won Album of the Year at the CMA Awards for Girl, and by 2020 she won CMA Female Vocalist of the Year. She also helped form the supergroup The Highwomen with Brandi Carlile, Amanda Shires, and Natalie Hemby. I mean, she was unequivocally dominating the industry.
I want to look at the music for a second, though, because by seamlessly weaving in 90s R&B and pop right from the start, even on her debut, wasn't Maren subtly signaling to the industry that their traditional genre walls couldn't contain her?
Oh, for sure.
It feels like a quiet rebellion before the loud one.
It was a very effective musical rebellion. The sources note that critics heavily praised her music as this hybrid. She was proving a mechanical point to the industry. You didn't have to choose between being a country storyteller and utilizing the rhythmic, track-building sensibilities of pop and R&B.
You can do both.
Right. She was expanding the boundaries of the genre from the inside out, essentially forcing the assembly line to accommodate new parts.
But pushing musical boundaries eventually bled into pushing cultural boundaries. And this brings us to the ideological friction that fundamentally altered her career trajectory.
Yes.
Now, just to be clear to you listening, we aren't taking a political stance here, but we have to look at how this deep ideological friction practically impacted her career.
Right. We're just looking at the historical record of what happened.
Exactly. If we look objectively at the timeline, there was a growing public clash of values between Maren and the country music establishment.
The record shows Maren began speaking out quite forcefully against systemic issues within country music. She identified and criticized what she viewed as a lack of equity, misogyny, and racism in the genre.
She didn't hold back.
No. For example, during her 2020 CMA acceptance speech, she deliberately used her platform on national television to name and elevate Black female country artists, pointing out their lack of representation.
And then the friction really escalates into a major public rift in early 2021. Maren publicly condemned fellow country star Morgan Wallen after a video surfaced of him using a racial slur.
And the backlash against her for speaking out was severe.
It was. The sources note that she and her infant son received death threats as a direct result.
Just for speaking out. And then the tension compounded heavily in August 2022.
Right.
She engaged in highly public clash with Brittany Aldean, who is the wife of country star Jason Aldean. Brittany had posted a comment on Instagram stating, "I'd really like to thank my parents for not changing my gender when I went through my tomboy phase."
And that sparked a massive reaction.
It did. Maren, alongside other artists, heavily criticized the remark, viewing it as transphobic. During the exchange, Maren publicly referred to Brittany as Insurrection Barbie.
And this feud didn't just stay contained to music blogs, you know. It spilled over into mainstream cable news. Tucker Carlson covered it on Fox News, and during the segment, he labeled Maren a, quote, lunatic country music person.
Which is a wild thing to be called on national news.
But from a PR perspective, Maren's response was brilliant. She didn't retreat at all. She leaned all the way into the insult.
What did she do?
She immediately printed lunatic country music person on T-shirts, sold them, and raised over $100,000 for Trans Lifeline and Glayladin.
Wow. It was a wildly successful fundraising move, but it also really solidified her alienation from the core country establishment. The ideological lines had been drawn at that point.
Very clearly.
In October 2022, during a concert in Nashville, Jason Aldean mentioned Maren's name on stage, and his crowd actively booed her.
That's intense.
The environment had become so toxic for her that Maren chose to skip the CMA Awards red carpet entirely that November, explicitly stating she no longer felt comfortable being there.
And all of this culminates in September 2023. She formally announces her departure from the country music industry.
A huge move.
She releases a final EP with Columbia called The Bridge, and she is not subtle about it. I mean, the tracks are literally titled The Tree and Get the Hell Out of Here.
Very direct.
She told the LA Times she felt she had said everything she could say, citing the industry's unwillingness to reckon with misogyny, racism, and its reluctance to support minority artists.
And of course, this move drew criticism from some traditional figures, like Lee Greenwood, who felt she was insulting a genre rooted in patriotism.
But let's look at the mechanics of this kind of departure for a second. From an industry perspective, is it even possible to remain a superstar in a highly centralized genre when you are fundamentally at odds with a significant portion of its core audience and its establishment?
Historically speaking, no.
Really?
Yeah, the Nashville model relies entirely on synergy. The interlocking gears require radio play to drive tour sales, which drives award show nominations, which in turn drives more radio play.
It's a closed loop.
Exactly. It requires a relatively unified fan base. When an artist's personal values directly and repeatedly collide with the established cultural norms of that audience, the gears jam. The friction becomes completely unsustainable.
So what are the options then?
At that point, you really only have two choices.
Right.
You silence yourself to keep the commercial machine running, or you break the machine to keep your voice. By releasing The Bridge, Maren officially opted to break the machine.
Which is incredible. But what makes this entire story so compelling to me is that this massive professional evolution was mirroring a profound personal metamorphosis happening at the exact same time.
They were happening parallel to each other.
Her life off stage was going through a similar dismantling.
The timeline of her personal life is incredibly revealing here. We mentioned earlier she met songwriter Ryan Hurd in a writing room. Well, they married in 2018.
Right.
In March 2020, right as the pandemic was locking the world down, she had their son via an emergency C-section. The sources indicate she suffered severe health issues during childbirth and subsequently struggled significantly with postpartum depression.
Which is so tough.
It is. She described it as a period of major identity crisis where she felt, in her own words, useless.
And then in late 2023, which is exactly when she is announcing her departure from country music, she and Ryan file for divorce.
Yeah, the timing is wild.
The settlement is finalized in early 2024. Now, the sources note they kept it amicable, right? They live just 5 minutes apart and still regularly have dinner together.
Which is great.
But the personal revelations keep coming. In June 2024, Maren publicly comes out as bisexual. She called it her greatest accomplishment of that year and subsequently began dating women.
If you step back and look at the broader pattern here, the country music industry is an assembly line of expectations.
Yes, exactly.
But marriage, motherhood, and heteronormativity come with their own societal assembly lines and incredibly rigid expectations. What we see in the source material is a human being systematically dismantling every single external expectation placed upon her, piece by piece, until only the truth remains.
It really is a complete shedding of layers. I mean, it really seems like leaving the rigid structure of the country music industry and coming out were two sides of the same coin for her, a total stripping away of outside expectations to finally just be herself.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Which brings us to where she is right now in the 2024 to 2026 era. She walked away from the pinnacle of country music, but she didn't fade away.
Not at all.
She just built an entirely new stage for herself on her own terms. I mean, she performed at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. She wrote a song called Kiss the Sky for the animated film The Wild Robot, which was actually shortlisted for an Oscar.
And musically, she is just thriving outside the box.
Yeah.
In May 2025, she released her fourth studio album, Dreamsicle, which received very favorable reviews, and embarked on a massive world tour across the UK and Europe.
Wow.
She was honored by Jill Aid with their Excellence in Media Award. She's collaborating with pop writers like Julia Michaels. She has entirely unboxed herself from any single label or genre.
So we started this deep dive looking at the tension of conquering an industry and then having the audacity to walk away from the peak. Maren Morris proved that the peak isn't always the destination, especially if the air up there doesn't let you breathe.
It's a powerful realization.
And it leaves you with something pretty profound to think about regarding the assembly lines in your own life. What parts of our own lives, or the assembly lines we've worked so hard to get on, might we need to walk away from in order to finally be authentic? Maren's story proves that sometimes the only way to realize you're on a factory assembly line is to reach the end of it, look at the product you've become, and realize you are the one who has to pull the plug.
It takes immense bravery to pull that plug, but as this story illustrates, the other side of that fear is total authenticity.
Thanks for listening to PPL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.